if what he had said wasn't perjury, there was nothing like, it was an FBI employee. And so I said, well, you guys got to report perjury. And they say, no, we're not doing that. That'll ruin our career. So no, you're supposed to. You don't have any choice. The director and the president have told us we have to report. Well, we're not going to report. So, oh boy, okay. Well, I went back. I wrote it up, and then here it is. These guys down there. I didn't see it. This is what they said. So, next thing I know, I'm in my attorney's office talking to him because I had to hire attorneys, a law firm, to protect me from the FBI and whatever. And he picks up the phone and he says, he's talking to some guy. He turns to me, puts his hand over, and he says, "Do you know who Barry Scheck is?" And I went crazy. Of course, Barry Scheck was the Barry Scheck. Well, my attorney didn't know him, so he was telling the attorney we're supposed to show up at the O.J. Simpson trial, bag and baggage, in all the documents that we were supposed to take with us, that we had that could, and I had nothing to do with it. I didn't want to. I was already, devastating my family with the revelations we were coming up with. But I and 4 attorneys and 3 legal assistants went to the airport in the Baltimore, Washington, whatever it is, BWI airport, got on an airplane and flew out to the O.J. Simpson trial. And I went into a room with a whole bunch of people and sat down at a table and explained to them, okay, this is what I heard, this is what I know, this is what's wrong with that guy there, that this is why people think he did what he did, and he's whatever. And so they housed me in the Bellage Hotel.
Oh yeah, I've stayed there. Yeah, very nice hotel.
Oh my goodness. Well, but I couldn't. Johnny Cochran had called me as mystery witness, and so I couldn't leave my room because people just came up to me, and I was sitting in a room with my attorney, and I see this very lovely, I think it's a reporter or whatever, on television saying, I just came from an exclusive interview with Frederick Whitehurst, the whistleblower. And my attorney and I looked at each other and we've been sitting here for the last few hours. What is she talking about? But I just holed up there for, I guess, 6, 7, 8 days. And I finally went over to the trial, and on the way over there, it was wild because there were people completely all over the street, and it just, the whole place was just a mob, and there were people that were breaking away so I could go on through with my attorneys, and I got in, and then finally in the courthouse, and I was sitting outside, and I remember because I'm a guy that drives a pickup truck with crank up windows in it. I'm not a microphone guy. I'm just, I live in a town of 1,600 people right now. And I'm sitting there and there's nobody else outside the courtroom, and I'm by myself, and the door opens and Johnny Cochran comes through the door and he says, "Hey, Fred, how you doing?" I said, "Well, Johnny, I'm okay." And then he hit me like a load of bricks. I just called Johnny Cochran by his first name. Wow, that's crazy. But Judge Ito wouldn't let me testify, and thank goodness, because I was a nervous wreck at that time. And so I went home, and that was how I got involved in it. The fellow who was testifying, it was about ethylene diamine tetracetic acid, a preservative on gloves. And what he was saying was malarkey, but it was not only malarkey, it was he hadn't done the research, and the guys down at Quantico, and they were angry that he was upstaging them and taking credit for work that he didn't do. And Judge Ito was right. That jury was exhausted, and what I had to tell them wasn't going to add anything to the picture. But what it did do was put me all over the national television. And I didn't ask for it. I came home from O.J. Simpson. FBI agents don't talk to the press. You do not talk to the media. You don't talk to Russians or communists or or folks like that either. You're okay, but you don't talk to the media. And I was called into my boss's boss office one day, very shortly after that, and he said, ABC News wants to talk to you. And I said, well, I'm not talking to them. And he said, they want to talk to you. And management says, you got to talk to them. Okay. Okay, well, you ordered me. I'll go talk to them then. But that was the O.J. Simpson thing.
But specifically, it was that the prosecution witness testified that chemical was found in laundry detergent and all kinds of stuff like that, right? Was that it?
However the testimony went, finding it was not relevant. The amount that was present was relevant. And the fact that he had done the research was not. That was what was angering the people at Quantico. They did the research. It was their work, and he picked it up, carried it downtown, did a few, puffs of smoke in the air, and then said, well, this is what I've shown. And those people, if you think a man is committing perjury and you're in the FBI, you're required to say something. But they knew what was going to happen to them because the FBI has a set of rules that are totally, completely irrelevant next to the main rule. And the main rule is thou shalt not embarrass the FBI. And I heard that again and again and again and again in the FBI. National security is not as important as embarrassing the FBI. Death penalty sentences and executions are not as important as embarrassing the FBI. Nothing in the world is important as embarrassing the FBI, period. That was just, and so they couldn't very well. Everybody knows it. There's not a book there that says that because then it would get under Freedom of Information Act, somebody get it. But that's so foolish that, we can't learn as a nation from our mistakes. The FBI is not a nation in and unto itself. It's a servant of the people, whether they call themselves the seat of all government or not. They are a servant of the people. They're paid by the people, and we should know when they're making mistakes that we should be able to, as a people, correct them. But no, anyhow, those boys couldn't reveal what was going on. Well, I could because I had orders like everybody else did. Anyhow, that's my O.J. Simpson story.
Well, knowing what you know, we have a lot in common, both states of Bellagio. La Bellage, it's called. La Bellage on Sunset Strip. It's right across the street from Whiskey A Go-Go. Did you hit the Whiskey A Go-Go or any of those places, the Rainbow? Probably not, right?
No.
Okay, yeah, those are like heavy metal places back in those days. But now, knowing what you know about the O.J. case, though, and about that chemical and the quantity of that chemical in the blood sample, do you think that blood was planted?
And now, a thought from Geico Motorcycle.
It took 15 minutes to take a spirit animal quiz online.
Please be the cheetah. Please be the cheetah.
And learn your animal isn't the cheetah, but the far less appealing blobfish.
Oh, come on.
To add insult to injury, you could have used those 15 blobfish minutes to switch your motorcycle insurance to Geico.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on motorcycle insurance. And now, a thought from Geico Motorcycle.
It took 15 minutes to take a spirit animal quiz online.
Please be the cheetah. Please be the cheetah.
And learn your animal isn't the cheetah, but the far less appealing blobfish.
Oh, come on.
To add insult to injury, you could have used those 15 blobfish minutes to switch your motorcycle insurance to Geico.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on motorcycle insurance.
I don't know that. What I know about the O.J. Simpson trial was that guilt would be decided by people who were lied to by, 4 or 5 law enforcement officers.
Gotcha.
And you cannot determine guilt when you cannot trust the information coming to you. I went into a courtroom one time and I told the judge, Your Honor, in order to have an assault, somebody's got to assault somebody. In order to prove an assault, you've got to have one credible witness at least. We've had 4 credible witnesses, including my client, and none of them have any credibility at all, period. And therefore, you can't prove assault. And that judge looked at me and said, you're right. You're right, Mr. Whitehurst. I don't find guilt here. So those people on that jury did exactly what they felt they should do.
Yeah.
We're not going to follow people that we know are lying.
Very good. I'd say if I ever get into trouble in North Carolina, you're the man I'm coming to.
No, I'm a really bad attorney. I'm no good at it.
Yeah, I think I could trust you, though. There's a lot of stuff about you I like, I've read. Now, I guess the TWA 800, was that one of your cases? I
know about TWA 800. In fact, there's a film out there by Christina Borgeson that's about the TWA 800. It's a phenomenal. I'm trying to find the title of it. It's a phenomenal documentary, and they just went out and interviewed a whole bunch of people. I was not. By that time they didn't want me out of the building, so I didn't go there. But I was hearing the ramifications of what was happening at the crime scene. People were furious that the fixers out there were trying to fix things and screwing the crime scene up.
Yeah, my ex-partner was NYPD Harbor Aviation. And all those guys in NYPD Harbor Aviation, they were all at my wedding. I was at their wedding, I know all these guys. And the story that I heard was that it had to be a missile, and that it probably came from a Naval National Guard, Naval National Guard ship. What do you hear?
Well, what I hear is what I heard from the people that were putting together Christina Borgeson's documentary, that some over 200 people saw a missile.
Yeah.
And a helicopter pilot 2 miles away, who had been a Vietnam helicopter pilot in the air, saw a missile. And that's what I hear. But, I wasn't there. I know that, the issues that they had on the ground where they had to deal with a special agent in charge or a deputy assistant director or whatever who had his opinion about what it was and needed his opinion to be what it had to be. And some of the scientists were telling him, well, there's problems with what you're saying here. And when I know that in being part of that film, I was interviewed for it and I watched the research of the TWA 800 film. I know that they interviewed those people, and finally the government's position was something effective mass hysteria or something. If you get 250 people and see a missile, and then you don't want there to be a missile, well, I guess what you do is, it's like we hear those stories in the Soviet Union where the boss is coming through and all the trees are dead. So you get green paint, and for miles and miles on the side of the road, you paint the trees. Okay. If you don't want missiles, then you say, well, everybody that saw that somehow or another at that point they saw it had a psychiatric break or something like that. And that because why? And if it was, if they were missiles, if whatever it was that did that, if it was a government mistake, it'll come out, but it'll come out long after you and I pass away.
Yeah, I agree with you, because these guys are all afraid to talk, so.
Well.
You were telling me before we came on the air that you keep a piece of molten steel from the Waco compound. Where these people and these children and these families were all burned alive. Can you tell us about your involvement in that case and what your conclusions are?
I was on the way back from the World Trade Center bombing, the one that happened in the early 90s, when we got a word, my partner and I, to drive on past. We dropped the vehicle that we were in and drive on out to Waco. And as we got closer to D.C., they said, belay that, we got some other people going out. I wasn't at Waco. I know a few years later that I was hired in 1998, 99, 2000, whatever, to go and reinvestigate, bring a crew in and reinvestigate. I was hired by Rick Van Vliet out of Fort Collins, Colorado. And they put out the film Waco, A New Revelation. And I went